um, yeah, hold on, guys. Okay, listen. Sorry about the little audio thing in the beginning there, guys. I just had to compose myself to do this live, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one to do. Ooh, oh boy, it's a tough one today, man. Hi guys, welcome to this live stream to react and share my thoughts on UFC Saudi Arabia Fight Night Adesanya versus Imavov. Guys, I'll just make this real quick, okay? I'm going to be I'm going to give my reactions to Izzy versus Imavov, and I'm going to give my reaction to a few other things, including Connor's comeback to the UFC as announced by Dana White. What else? I'm going to be talking a little bit about reacting to Michael Venom Page versus Shara Bullet and Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus what's his name? Pavlovich. Yeah. So I'll be reacting to just these things, guys. The timing might be off with this live stream, but hey, listen, you guys can always come back to watch it, okay? Woo! You can tell how hesitant I am to talk about this fight. But it's the job, and I must do it. I don't care about preferences. If I need to say it as it is, I'll say it as it is. First off, let's start with this. As controversial as it may seem, let's start with the fact that Israel Adesanya is not washed up. Let's start there. Izzy ain't washed up, guys. You need to chill with that BS and stop it. It's just two back-to-back wins. Two back-to-back losses. It's two L's, okay? It's two L's. It's allowed in MMA. Some of the greats have had two L's in their career. I'm going to have to really decide or look back at the information to find out which of the greats has had two back-to-back L's. But listen, it is what it is. It's two L's. Okay? So I don't understand how a lot of people think that two L's automatically means that you're washed up. Okay? I think Izzy still has a lot of fight in him. I think Izzy can still be very exciting in the UFC. It's just, I think at this point, it's two things. One, he might just end up being a gatekeeper, in which case I'd advise that if Izzy loses one more fight, maybe two, I think he should step away from the sport. Now, not because he doesn't have more fights in him, he does, in my personal opinion, but I think he should step away because the one thing you do not want to do is follow a Tony Ferguson route and then completely decimate your record. You don't want to do that. You don't want to decimate your legacy. You don't, it's just been, he's put in too much work in the past. He's had too many great highlight clips. He's had too many reels and moments in his career to wash that away and replace that with memories of massive losses. I understand the whole comeback story. He's done it before. And if there's one comeback, one of the greatest comebacks in UFC history, it was Israel versus Alex Pereira 2. Okay? That being said, I think he may need to step back if he has 1 or 2 more losses. Look, fuck it. Go over to karate. Go over to karate. What's it called? Karate combat? Yeah, go over to karate combat. If that's the case, go over there. Go over there and try and see if that style of tournament works for you. Right? And again, my personal opinion. You guys don't have to take my word for it. It's my personal opinion. Okay. I just think also one of the downsides of being a champion in any division in the UFC or in any sport actually is that everybody has a bullseye on you and everybody studies your tapes. When you win, people study. When you lose, people study. And when they study, they don't study because they admire you. No, they study because they want your shit. They want it. They want your spots. So they study you to break you down, analyze your fights, and come and kick your ass. And personally, I think Izzy has been figured out. I really, really think so. And it's not even just on the ground game anymore. It's also in the stand-up. I think Izzy has been completely figured out. His style has been bent. The style bender's style has been bent. Jan Blachowicz was the first person to do it. Sean Strickland did it. Alex Pereira did it. Dricus du Plessis did it. And now Nasruddin Imavov has done it. There's now enough footage out there to show how to beat the style bender. It is what it is. I love Izzy, big Izzy fan, but we've got to say it for what it is. He's been completely figured out. And it sucks too. It sucks. Because I would have loved to see that reign continue for a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. Because Izzy is the last hope for all of us, all of us nicely put African brothers. Izzy was the last hope to keep the spirit of the 3 African kings, the reign of the 3 African kings alive. We all know how it went with Francis Ngannou, and the UFC. So that's one way. Even though Francis is still the champion PFL, but we all know how that went, right? From in the UFC. I'm speaking specifically about the UFC. Francis is one way. That whole thing with Francis it's gone. Kamaru Usman, yeah, I don't think Usman's getting those. Usman is not going to get the belt back. I'm sorry, I just don't see it happening. If it hasn't happened now, especially since he couldn't even get past Leon Edwards, in my personal opinion, Leon ain't shit. So our last hope was Israel Adesanya. Can we all agree on that? Izzy was our last hope. And unfortunately, look what happened. Look at what happened to Izzy. It's a tough one, guys. It's a tough one. Because you can't even say Izzy lost because he was taken to the ground and his ground game ain't good. No. Imavov stood with Izzy. And while Izzy did pretty good, in my personal opinion, I think Izzy had it locked in for 1 round. Yeah. That second round, bruh. And within the first minute of the second round, bruh, bruh, that came out of nowhere. And the funny thing, though, is I actually didn't feel as bad as I typically do when Izzy loses. And I'm like, what's going on? Am I immune to all the losses now? I think so. I think I'm very immune to Izzy's losses. So when they happen, I'm like, yeah, all right, they happened, It is what it is. So unfortunately, hey, we'll have to take it for what it is. He lost, guys. For all these Izzy fans out there, guys, just take this one on the chin. He lost. Let's move on from it, and we hopefully will be better. Okay, but these are what I think so far. I think, again, recap: Izzy should be very strategic in his next fights. Whatever next fight he has to fight or make in the UFC, be extra strategic and know when to leave. Know when to leave. That is so important. GSP cracked that code. Khabib cracked that code. Most other people did not crack it, right? It's too many names to mention, but some of the greats didn't crack it. Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman, and a few other people. They just did not crack it. I'm not saying Chris Weidman is a great. I'm just saying Chris Weidman is a former champion. Okay, so now it would be very interesting to see the lineup of the middleweight division as it is. We have Hamza Chimaev out there. We have Dricus du Plessis, who's the champ. And then we have Imavov, who's coming up and is about to face one of these guys. Oh, by the way, I did not mention Sean Strickland because I think Imavov is going to run through Sean Strickland if they ever get to fight. My personal opinion, it's my personal opinion. I think Imavov is going to run through Sean Strickland if they fight. Okay? However, Imavov versus Khamzat or Imavov versus Dricus du Plessis is a very interesting matchup. In fact, there's actually Robert Whittaker out there too. Very interesting matchup to see how these things play out. Very, very interesting. And at this point, speaking about Robert Whittaker, do you guys think Robert will be ready or willing to fight Israel Adesanya at this point in his career, considering they've become training partners and they're both on losing streaks, right? Do you think Rob just wants to get that W back from Izzy? I don't know. I seriously doubt it. But hey, who knows how these things go? Let's move on, okay? Quick conversation here, transitioning to Shower Bullet versus MVP. I was very excited when I found out that fight was going to happen. I was elated. I was pumped. I was ready because those two styles match up greatly for both guys. We all knew that shit wasn't going to go to the ground. That's going to be a strike fest. It's going to be a strike orgy. And I was ready for it, right? Now, I had no preference, because I actually like both guys, but I had no preference going into that fight. However, I had no idea, or rather, I didn't think MVP would have been that dominant. Because on paper, that fight could have gone either way. It could have gone in favor of Shara, because Shara is an exceptional striker. He really is. Or it could have gone in the direction of MVP. MVP could have taken that W going into the fight. We all know he did finally, but he could have taken that W before that fight started. There's this thing I see online with a lot of people saying that Shower Bullet is a fraud or Shower Bullet is washed up. Give me a freaking break, guys. Come on. We can't be this feeble. The casuals, I'm talking about us, the MMA casuals. We are too fucking feeble. We have short-term memories, and sometimes that shit pisses me off. It really does. Okay? The one moment you're great, you are the best in doing double spinning back fist knockouts, and the next thing you lose to MVP and everybody says, the hype train is washed. Like, for real? That's how feeble we are. The same thing with Izzy too. I'm sorry. When Izzy was great, for the most part, you all loved him. And then, boom, just like that, Alex Perez on the scene, and everybody's shouting, Chama, Chama, Porta. y'all are some shit. For real. For real. Okay, listen, I'm part of the shit squad too, because I flip too. I flip very easily. That's just the nature of what it is. But sometimes we have to take some introspection and look back and say, well, but fuck it. What's this guy's record been for the last couple of years or the last couple of fights? How many people can achieve what this guy has done? Until Saturday, Shara Bullet had lost no fight. That man has one eye. Do you guys understand do you understand how fucking spectacular it is for Shara? Shara has one eye, guys. Second, the only other person to do that is Michael Bisping. And Shara has gone this far with one eye. The Pirate needs to be commended. You learn from the loss. That's why I would say L's are good things, right? If a loss happens, it's a good thing because you can learn a lesson. So L's are for learning, L's are for lessons, not losses, in my personal opinion. Now, where L is a bad thing is if it happens and you don't learn from it, then that's on you, okay? Now, going back to Shara and an MVP, I had no idea that MVP would have completely neutralized Shara the way he did. Like it was a very, very dominant win. When it comes to striking, listen, do not stand with MVP. I don't know why people don't know this yet. You cannot stand and strike with MVP. He literally has perfected that style he has. Okay? I'm sorry. It's just what it is. Go back to his fights from the past. You can see it. Then he comes into the UFC and does that to Kevin Holland, who, look what he did to Shara. Look what he did to Ian Gary, honestly, until Ian Gary switched it up and took him to the ground. You don't stand and strike with MVP. I think that should be known by now. But Shara is not going to go to the ground, and that became a strike fest. A very technical fight, too. But I was surprised how Shara could not figure out MVP, which really shouldn't be surprising because most people cannot. However, I am not happy with Shara's excuse or statement after the fight. Again, guys, fighters, listen and listen very well. Hear me very well. Do not give fucking excuses about your health after a fight, because you have the option to pull out of the fight. We are not that desperate to see you fight with an injury. We want to see you fight in tip-top form, physically and mentally. Don't go into the octagon and fight if you have an injury. And then when you lose, you say, oh my God, it was the injury. Shut the hell up with that shit. I'm sick and tired of it. I really am. Now, if you have an injury in the fight, let's say you are going into the fight, clean, no injuries, and then while you're fighting, you have an injury. Maybe you broke an arm, you broke a rib cage, and that affects your performance. That's valid. But if you have an injury before the fight and you still go in, you shut your mouth up and say nothing afterwards. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what happened to you prior to. Such a stupid excuse, because, and I say this all the time, if you go into a fight with an injury and you win, listen, your stock goes up, right? You say, oh man, listen, I had this injury, I had this broken toe, or whatever it is, and I still weathered the storm and I won. And everybody says, oh, look, he's such a badass. So when you flip it, yeah, what are we supposed to do with that information, right? Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to explain it better. I haven't had my coffee this morning, okay? Yeah, so Another thing I wanted to point out is this. I don't think that MVP is going to be a champion in the UFC. You ask why? Well, several reasons. I think the depth of competition in the 185 and 170 division, it's pretty deep, and there's a lot of quality fighters there. And then two, by MVP's own admission, he says he's still slightly unadjusted to the bright lights of the UFC. He says when he was in Bellator, he could easily go in and just do his thing in the cage and be himself. But apparently when he's in the UFC, there's a little bit of intimidation in how the UFC events happen. And I'm like, that, as valid as that is, that's also another dumb excuse. I'm sorry, MVP. It is a dumb excuse too. It really is. You're a fighter. You're a prize fighter. You're supposed to be out there in front of the bright lights. This is not new. You're supposed to be out there in front of the bright lights and giving us the best performance every single time you enter into the octagon. It's expected. The UFC is the biggest fight promotion in the world. So the moment you sign on that contract, that dotted line to join in the UFC, you know what comes with the territory. And you should expect it. You should be mentally prepared for those kinds of things. So what happens when, if he ever finds himself in a championship fight? You don't understand, or a super fight, a super championship fight. Will you fold because of the lights? You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense. I'm sorry, MVP. Makes zero sense. Guys, if you just joined the live, please like the stream. Support your boy. Let's make this happen. I really appreciate you guys. Okay. Now, two more things I'm going to talk about will be Conor. I want to talk about Conor and Dana at the press conference at the post-fight press conference at UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia. One of the members of the press asked Dana White when Conor was going to return to the UFC. And guys, if you've been following this whole Conor coming back to the UFC shenanigans, you will know that Dana White, the whole of last year, at some point said Conor should come back to the UFC sometime in 2024. And then sometime around mid-2024, when that whole thing with Michael Chandler blew over, Dana started saying Conor's going to come back in 2025. But then a few days ago at the post-fight press conference, Dana was asked when Conor is going to return to the octagon. And Dana's like, he doesn't know. There was no update. And I'm like, wait a minute. A lot of us have been saying this. I don't see how Conor is going to come back anytime soon with the amount of money that he has. And him pulling out of that whole Chandler fight for what was the reason? Was it a toe? Was his foot a balloon? I don't know. But again, Conor has that much. He has so much money, but then I don't know about his spending habits. But he has so much money. It's so hard to be motivated to actually come into the octagon and have your face punched when you wake up on silk sheets. You got kids, and then you have that whole SA, the allegations, or actually not the allegation, it was a conviction, the SA conviction, and all those things that come with it. When you have all that floating around, I don't know that the motivation is there. I really don't. And then again, if Conor comes back, at this point, winning Conor, is that even going to be a thing? So whoever defeats Conor, there's already a built-in excuse, and the excuse will be this. Conor's leg got snapped in half in his last fight. That was, 2-3 years ago? Right? And then he's come back, he's older, he's washed up, he's had so many shenanigans outside the octagon. You could argue that he's not even a focused enough fighter for you to have bragging rights if you beat him. Whoever beats Conor or fights Conor, literally probably just be about red panty night. It's going to be about the money. It is not about anything else. It's going to be strictly about money. It's not about glory. I don't think there's anything glorious about beating Conor McGregor. I don't think there's anything great to add to your legacy about beating this version, the current version of Conor McGregor in whatever weight class, 145, 155, 170. There is nothing spectacular about beating Conor. Beating Conor, this may sound controversial, listen, but at this point, beating Conor McGregor, oh shit, I know I shouldn't say this, but this is live and I'm going to say it. Beating Conor McGregor might be equivalent to beating Tony Ferguson at this point. Listen, guys, I know that doesn't sound right. But with a couple of more losing streaks from Conor, I think that statement is going to be valid in the future. Essentially, I'm trying to say, Conor McGregor ain't shit. I'm sorry. At this point, as a fighter, Conor does not have it. Sorry, I know this hurts to hear. We just have to say it how it is. We have to speak freely. We have to speak truthfully at the fact that the Conor we know is gone. The Conor we know will never come back. So let's just adjust our minds to accept tweets, social media posts, and social media battles from the great Mystic Mac. I think at this point, that's all we can do. If he does come back, you all know we're going to watch. Yes, we know he has still the biggest star power. We know. But star power can only go so far with so many losses. Ask Tony Ferguson. And no fighter is immune to that. Okay? And I want to transition to my last story for this little live. How many times have I talked about the UFC's heavyweight division and how completely boring and lackluster it is? And then we have a fight, Sergio Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And as usual, it was a snooze fest. So at this point, heavyweight fights have two outcomes, right? It's going to be either a quick finish because they have that much power, that much one-punch knockout power. It's going to be a quick finish, a quick fight, or it's going to be a snooze fest. There is no in-between. There's no sweet spot of technicality in heavyweight fights in the UFC. And at this point, if they scrap the heavyweight division right now, I don't see how that would be a problem with me. I really don't. I think light heavyweights should be the tip of the weight divisions if we're interested in seeing exciting fights. Because heavyweights has nothing. Other than Tom Aspinall versus John Jones right now, what other fights are you excited for in the UFC's heavyweight division? In fact, what's more exciting would be Alex Pereira moving up to save the heavyweight division. It doesn't matter who he fights, whether it's Tom Aspinall or John Jones. You know what I'm saying? It's to me, that division is almost dead. It's not exciting at all. And Dana White confirmed this. And you guys know this. I've been saying this for a while now. I really have. What are we going to do with the heavyweight division? Okay, guys, name the top 10. Okay, no, I spoke too soon. Let me rephrase that. Guys, name 6 fighters from the UFC's heavyweight division that you're excited for. Any across the entire division. Doesn't even have to be the top 15. Just name any fighter in the UFC, 6 fighters rather, in the UFC's heavyweight division that you're excited to see fight. I guarantee you cannot name 6 fighters that excite you in the UFC's heavyweight division. None. It's John Jones. It's Tom Aspinall. Who else? Maybe Derek Lewis, but even at this point, no. Who else? It's not Rosenstruck. It's not Pavlovich. It's not Gustafsson. It's not Cyril Gahn. It's not Taito Ivasa. Who are we excited to see in the UFC's heavyweight division other than Tom Aspinall and John Jones? And if that is the case, why do we still have that division? In fact, I think my personal recommendation would be, how about the UFC brings in some really, really new talent into the UFC's heavyweight division? Because the usual name will just recycling and regurgitating the same names all the time. I'm tired. I've been tired. I've been tired for about 2 years now. Actually, no, I've been tired for about 4 years. From the moment that whole DC, Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic rivalry, that trilogy just completely threw me off the rails with my expectations for the UFC's heavyweight division. Yeah, I said it. Tired, sick of it. Can't stand it. Right? I only got a little bit more excited when Tom Aspinall came on the scene, and even more excited when John Jones moved up to heavyweight. But with Francis Ngannou gone, the greats like Alistair Overeem gone. I mean, Overeem was washed up at the point he left. Alistair Overeem is gone. Stipe is gone. DC is gone. Who's the superstar? It had to take Tom Aspinall and John Jones to give us a little bit of fluff in the UFC's heavyweight division. You know? It's not looking good, guys. I don't know. We cannot sit by and pretend like the UFC's heavyweight division is super exciting. UFC, Uncle Dana, you guys need to get on this and get it fixed ASAP. Otherwise, that division is going to die a natural death. Who agrees with me? Does anybody disagree with me? Right? No, nobody? Exactly. I thought so. On that spectacular note, I'm gonna drink my tears over here with the loss of the style bender whose style was bent. Again, Izzy is not washed up. I really don't think he's washed up. I think he's just been figured out. They know him. The formula has been deciphered. The formula has been deciphered. And unless he evolves, I don't see how he's going to remain relevant in the UFC. He better go back to the drawing board and look at people like Yuri Prohaska. With Yuri Prohaska just came back after his second loss to Alex Pereira. Yuri says he has to go back to the drawing board and he has to evolve. And we clearly saw that in the fight against Jamal Hill. Yuri's movement was smooth. Yuri's punches were crisp. Yuri's footwork, as still maintaining the awkwardness of his style, Yuri's footwork was way more improved in his fight against Jamal Hill. If Izzy doesn't sit back and evolve, that would be the end of an illustrious career. I just pray and hope that he doesn't make the legacy, he doesn't destroy the legacy in the process by staying on longer than he should. If you've been here this long, I thank you and I really appreciate you. I'm going to jump off this live right now. That's my reaction to UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia. I really appreciate you guys. Have fun. Peace. Stay good out there to the next live, okay? I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.